great place to play.
Yeah. So we did some AI ecosystem analysis, and then we just did some pharma analysis. I want to end on a little bit of an off the wall question, which is harkening back to your interview with Laura Shin a few years ago. Excellent interview where you analyzed sort of SBF's case and gave him
Yeah.
some advice. I'm curious to do a thought experiment, which is imagine SBF gets out early. He gets lucky, there's some sort of pardon, or he just, he gets out on good behavior. Maybe it's unrealistic, but imagine he gets out in the next 5 years, something like that, a shortened sentence, maybe 10 years. What advice might you have for him in terms of, a redemption arc or just reacclimating to society?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Sam.
Okay.
I like him a lot. I think he should be out. I think the hard part here, and having talked to like even the Trump administration about this, is the hard part is Sam has got to show he's a normal guy, and I think he's struggled with that. He's obviously not that normal. In a lot of ways. How many of us go to MIT? How many of us start
Yeah.
a huge company? How many of us pick Anthropic as the first,
Yeah.
bet? So there's something about Sam that people don't trust, and there's something about Sam that you know, he's got to really let his human side out. And one of the problems here is maybe he doesn't have one. And I don't say that as a bad thing necessarily, but as somebody who understands his path in life, being a prodigy, being pushed on stage as like this intellectual guy, and being shoved into this like different room to room math camp, MIT, Jane Street, all this stuff, he maybe didn't have the time to like be a normal person. And I think that that's what makes it so awkward and so untrusting. People look at him, they're like, I don't know about this guy. There's something about this guy I don't trust, and he's got to fight hard to make it real that he's a real dude and with real life, with real friends, with real emotions, and then people will feel bad for him. But until then, it's like, how do we know this guy doesn't come and like pull the wool over our eyes again? And I feel like, you know, truth be told, like as much as Anthropic was a successful investment, if you look back at that announcement, Anthropic was those profits seemed like they were going to go in his pocket, and not in the depositor's pocket, not even in FTX's pocket. So like if you look at the round, it was Series A by Sam Bankman, and it was like, well, at the time that was the tell. That actually is how you would have told, because
Yeah.
where is this 400 million coming from? I mean, most people don't have 400 million dollars.
Right.
Bezos doesn't put 400 million dollars in deals.
No.
Zuck doesn't put.
Right.
The two richest guys in the world don't just drop 400 million on a single deal. The
Right.
biggest VCs, maybe that's still like a lot.
Yeah.
So like, how'd this guy show up with 400 million to drop? And the answer was obvious. He took everyone's money to do it, and that's wrong. And it, you could almost allow it if, like, hey, it was going to go to all of us depositors somehow. It was going to give us 105 cents on the dollar. Right? Okay, whatever. I didn't ask for this gambling, but if it helps me, I'll take it. And that's kind of my case.
Yeah.
That's what I went to jail for.
Yeah.
And so, at least I gave the profits to the
Yeah. Yeah.
people. But I think that it's no matter how bad. No matter how big of a mistake you made, there's always redemption. It's just you have to show the vulnerability. You have to say I fucked up. You have to say, even if you don't say I fucked up, you have to show a scar or wound or bleed a little bit. And I think that his thing is like, he wants to fight, but he's not connecting, and connecting is so important. And I feel like his upbringing, his sort of like MIT math camp, Jane Street life has led him to this position where he's hard to feel sorry for. He's hard to connect to him. And I feel like
Yeah.
if he does get out early, which again I'm advocating for, but it's been met with this very stiff resistance of who really is this guy as a human. That's the question I
Yeah.
get back from the Trump camp. Um, I think that once he does that, not only will people in politics feel bad for him, America will feel bad for him. America will want to give him a second chance because the promise is there. The guy's obviously a genius,
Yeah.
one of the best businessmen ever.
Yeah.
But how do you take that and get the trust, get the I like this guy, I want to root for this guy. That's what he's got to focus on, and he's brilliant, so I think he might be able to do it. But it's going to take some soul searching, might even take some pain.
Yeah.
He's obviously going through pain right now, but I'd love to see him out. I'd love to see what he could do for society, and I feel like as long as he can be a human, which is some people we joke about them being lizards or robots or whatever, and there's a human in everyone, and I think this experience may actually, this is going to sound really crazy, might actually be the best thing for him,
Wow.
because it's the pain of learning who you are, the pain of going through this pressure chamber that prison is, and forcing you to reflect on like what did I miss, what is this all about? And 5 years in prison, and then coming out, and I've heard a rumor that there are investors who have already lined up for Sam's next thing. I'm not kidding. I've heard this from very serious people
Wow.
that, and the numbers are like they're staggering, that they're willing to drop hundreds of millions or even billions on Sam's next thing. And so obviously, there's something here. And to throw a life away, you know, that like such a unique life away, and I was making fun of Sam. I was digging a little bit. And now like, that I feel like, he has to go through that journey, that hero's journey of like he's got to hit rock bottom, and then I think, perhaps, the time will be where he gets out. Maybe it's in this administration, maybe it's the next one. But I see a big glorious comeback if he can find this humanity, find this like, this new person.
Yeah. That's a great note to wrap on. Martin, thanks so much for coming on
Thank you,
Modern
Eric.
Situation.
See you soon.
Perfect.